vest from last night, though.
We're filming.
New vest?
We're live, by the way.
Well, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Where were you at Pearl Harbor?
I was at my living at 243 Roman Avenue. I had the radio on. Listen to the report. I was probably about 15 years of age. Right, 15.
Yeah, 15 you were.
What was your first thought when your submarine got struck?
Huh?
What was the first thing that you thought about when your submarine got struck?
Holy gee, I was afraid of water.
Thoughts on the highway plan, the national highway expansion.
The worst drive I ever had on a turnpike was when you were the driver. 20 miles an hour all the way.
When did you know that you loved Mom?
Well, when I found out when I got her net worth.
That was it.
Oh my God.
How did you ask her to marry you?
I never asked her. She demanded it.
Tell us a little bit about your test when you were in the Navy and you had to pass your swimming test.
I figured I was home free, and but my records followed me, and I had to take swimming lessons all over again in Bainbridge, Maryland. And I noticed that if I grabbed the bulkhead, the side of the pool, got on my back, I could swim. But that was not really legal. But I did it when the guy was not looking. I passed the test. I haven't been in water since.
That includes showers. So, who's your favorite president of all time?
Good question.
Douglas MacArthur.
President.
Yeah, but he should have been president.
Why did you go into law?
Well, my brother Pete was very instrumental in getting me into law school. I had a professor, John Dugan, taught at what school did I go? Champlain College, and he ended up becoming the professor at New York Law, and he played a role in getting me to do New York Law. Yeah. After 2 years of college, I got into law school. And New York Law had 3 semesters around the clock, and I got out after 2 years. So after 4 years of education, I took the bar exam and passed. Eventually.
How many times did you take it?
Huh?
How many times?
I only took it 3 times.
What was the story about when Graham brought down the newspaper clip when you first met?
What? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I opened my office. It was a Saturday morning, and she came in, and she had a newspaper clipping with my pictures. And I said, well, I said to her, I already have it. Yeah.
What was the happiest day of your life?
Well, right now. Here.
Okay,
We got to get the crowd for that one.
what was the second happiest day of your life?
Well, let me see. The 22nd of May, 1954.
Where were you when you were having your babies? Like, what happened when Maria was born?
Well, I was concerned about having to not go to sleep that night, so I asked the doctor what time would the baby be delivered. It was at night, and he said around 6 o'clock. So I set the alarm.
And you went down.
You dropped Graham off on the left, right?
In those days, the father did not go into the maternity.
Yeah.
Well, they stayed in their parents' the father's waiting room.
And how did you name all of your children? How did it work?
I don't know. Your mother controlled that, I think. Yeah.
Well, was there any reason why people were named what they were named?
Well, that's tradition.
And what's tradition?
Well, you get named after first of all, you get named after the paternal parents, and then if you have another child, it's a return of parents. That's why Maria was my mother's name, Maria, and Rosemary was for Rose Pipito, the grandmother, right? Okay. All right.
Well, what was your favorite meal that Mom made?
When I got out of the Navy, I called my mother. I said I was coming home, and she said, "What do you want to eat?" I said, "Greens and beans."
Vanessa Fazul?
Yeah, that's Vanessa Fazul. Yeah, greens and beans. Yeah.
Is that still your favorite meal?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What's your favorite trip you ever taken?
My favorite trip? Well, for about 25 years before we went to Florida, and I enjoyed that, getting away from the cold. Went to Bermuda 2 or 3 times. Went to Nassau once. Went to Jamaica once. Went to Cape Cod half a dozen times. And the Jersey Shore a few times. So I always liked the beach. Like sand, you know.
Not swimming.
And I always wanted a place right on the beach.
What are your memories of camp?
Well, I enjoyed having you guys up at the camp, enjoying yourselves. You got along. You always got along real well. You know, except for last year when we had a little fist fight.
What was your athletic peak of your life?
I was an all-star player, a basketball player in 6th grade. I played very well. I was very competitive. We played against Constance Lazaro, who ultimately ended up being an all-star basketball, football player, and baseball player. But I thought I was pretty coordinated athletically. But I could swim. Oh, geez. I had no ability to tread water. I was sick.
What was your favorite memory of Champlain or New York Law?
Well, I was fortunate to go into Champlain because when I got out of the service, there were a lot of guys, veterans that were applying for college, and to supplement the number of places that people could apply to, they set up Associated Colleges of New York, which is one of the spots was Champlain College in Plattsburgh, New York. And that's where I met a good friend, Bob Miller. He was in my wedding party. And he was from Newton, Massachusetts.
Oh.
Hey.
And then I went to law school and lived with Bob Miller for a while. It was a little suite in Brooklyn Heights. Commuted by subway to New York Law. And how I became acclimated to hot coffee, I used to stop at Nedick's. And I would have to drink the hot coffee because I had to get to school. And that's how I became acclimated, to hot coffee. Everything, I want everything hot. Like soup, it's gotta be hot.
That's why?
Yeah.
Interesting.
What are your thoughts about family and connection?
Well, you know how I love family.
Whoa.
Now you're getting really deep.
Philosophical.
It pleases me so much that you guys are very close to one another. You get along real well. You joke around and you relax. You don't take your life serious. That's the story of my life. I don't want to take life serious. I just take everything take life as it's dealt to you. So that's it.
Is there a sibling that you related to closest, like that you were best friends with?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for my older brother Pete, and because he struggled a lot, and he was a good student. He was a good leader. He was very active in high school and college. Became president of the senior high school class, and also president of his college high school class. So my brother Lou, I ended up being close to my brother Lou. We did things together. He was 3 years older than me, but we got along quite well, except the one time we were down the cellar, per my mother's request to clean up the cellar, and I had a little disagreement with how Lou was handling the job. So he told me, he said to me, where do you want to get hit? And I said, right here. And damn it, he hit me right there. Yeah. And I haven't been the same since. Yeah.
What was the story about you when you were sledding down Roman Avenue? Did you end up in a manhole or something?
Yeah, in those days they didn't have these manholes that are flat on the ground. And they had a built-in catch basin, you know, built in from the curb. And I was sledding down Roman Avenue where we lived. And in those days they would put ashes on one side of the street to help cars get up the street road. We used to sleigh ride on the other side, which was not treated with salt or cinders. And I hugged the curb, and I went right into this manhole cover, this concrete thing, and I still have a scar here. Yeah.
What was it like to be in a family with a father who had passed and a 36-year-old mother?
Well, I did not experience much of it because I was only 8 months old when my father passed away. He came home, I'm told, and walked into the back door into the kitchen. He sat on a rocking chair, and he said to my mother, I'm told, I have a headache. And he, about 20 years ago, I finally went to, I just assumed he had a heart attack. I went to City Hall to get the death certificate, and I saw that the cause of death was cerebral hemorrhage, based upon the history of his saying to my mother, I have a headache. So how did I feel? I didn't experience that much. My mother always was a good cook, always provided for us. My father's family bought the house at 243 Roman Avenue in 1912, and that's where we lived in the bottom flat. And my father's siblings, well, one of them lived on the second flat, and ultimately a cousin of mine, who was the daughter of another of my father's siblings, occupied the upstairs flat. And when the war stopped and all the boys were home, the president of the Amsterdam Savings Bank pulled up in front of the house. He came into the house to look over things. My father and my mother had a $2,500 mortgage on that house, and they paid the interest every year. Every semi-annually, they paid the interest. In other words, they paid that in interest. They paid up the. They paid more than what the principal was, you know, for many, many years. So my mother was asked to ask my brother Pete to go to the bank and talk to the president because she was afraid he was going to foreclose. And he said, no way, will we foreclose on your mother because she's a good customer. She paid in interest alone. Or he paid, my father did. And then he continued to pay more than what the principal, if she had applied money against the principal, she would have paid that thing up with the interest. Yeah. So that was a side where it went big.
What was Christmas Day like at your house?
Well, we always had a natural tree, and I enjoyed the smell of the tree, you know. The Christmas tree smell it, and we would decorate the tree, and we would have a manger. And it was very, very festive, of course. My mother would have everybody over for Christmas Eve, with 7 or 8 fishes, you know, and we were a very close family. And then you guys came up on the scene and made things even closer. It warmed my heart. She was very well. I really didn't appreciate it as much as I know now. She was a very good mother and a very good grandmother and good wife. She was a great note taker, as you probably know. She kept a diary, you know, of her life, and she was very smart, very intelligent. Yeah, she went to Mount Holyoke School, which was a girls' school. It still is. But we ended up having a kid about the number of lesbians.
You had to go there.
What's your biggest memory about your career? Like what did you like about being a judge?
I thought I played a real important role. I was a very compassionate judge. Because I always treated people the way I would rather be treated. And caps are not the same way. Caps sometimes they become a little racial in treating people, you know. But anyway, I played a very important role, and a lot of Hispanics would come before me, and I was very understanding of them. To the degree that some of my friends used to say, let him go Riccio. Because I consider myself a law and order guy. I consider myself conservative. But like Judge Scalia, when he heard a criminal case against a criminal defendant, he would become more liberal. In other words, he would become more leaning toward the rights of a defendant. And in my court, we used to have my predecessors never had a trial. Would never have a trial. But I would get people that would enter a plea of not guilty, and in fact ask for a day in court. I always applied the rules, and always gave them a day in court. We would have a jury trial. In fact, in the course of a year, I would have maybe 10, 15 jury trials.
What's the longest sentence you ever gave anyone?
Well, I couldn't sentence anybody over a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Here.
The first case I had a kid before me. They filed a complaint against, the police filed a complaint against, which was an innocuous thing, disorderly conduct. He misbehaved, but he came from a pretty good family in town. And the first case I asked him, what do you want me to do with it? He said, send me to jail. Put me to jail. Because I always find the feeling that most of these people that appear in criminal court that misbehave they have no ego, they have no self-respect for themselves, you know, and they think they're losers. So I figured that I did not want to incarcerate people more that much, because that would confirm that that person before me was a loser. I would put him in jail, and he said, well, that confirms it. Nobody cares about me.
So if we talk to your friends from your breakfast or lunch group, how would they describe you in 3 words?
Let him go Riccio.
That's 4 words.
No, it's let him when it's low.
Let him.
Were you a joker? Were you
I used to have people that would plead not guilty.
No, not in the court, just among your friends.
Wait a minute. To passing a school bus, which is a terrible thing, you know, you pass a school bus. And I would decide the case and ruled in favor of the defendant, even though it was a sensitive issue. But because the school bus was not a school bus within the definition of the law. The law says the school bus has to be yellow, the school bus sign has to be a certain height above the sign. So this is not a school bus, right? People plead not guilty because they didn't see the school bus, or they didn't see it because it didn't have the basic.
out or-
Yeah,
How,
right.
how'd you deal with repeat offenders? The guys that you'd see more than once? Did you become less compassionate when that happened?
I probably was. I would see a wise guy, a guy that was a criminal type of person, and I ruled accordingly. You know? Yeah.
There's apple crisp and is that? Oh, you're not having it. There's apple crisp and vanilla ice cream.
How
Yeah.
excited
Oh,
are
do
you?
you like apple crisp?
End of questions. Right.
How last one? How excited are you to be a great grandfather?
Let me see.
No pressure.
Whoa.
I'm disappointed it's gonna be a girl, so if it was a boy, it would name Michael, right?
We can hope that she has your
Michael
honesty.
Hughes.
Call her Michaela.
End of question.
What's the favorite meal Graham made?
She was a good cook. She did everything good. I always enjoyed real cup, the old fashioned.
Veal cutlet? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good.
What is your wish for everybody going forward?
Well, I wish that my grandchildren would continue to be close and continue to enjoy one another. It's obvious they enjoy one another. The dialogue is continuous. No interruption. Right?